And hello there, people of the world. Welcome to my channel, Sir Cool's a Lot. You're cool, I'm cool, we're all super cool. So this is a continuation video of my evaluation of a product called CHETAITAI that I imported directly from China. From I guess the manufacturing company is called Wuyi County Shanhai Industry and Trading Co. Limited. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. If not, I apologize. So let's jump on in and let me show you what I've got. I think if you are a fan of this channel, I think you're going to be in for a treat with this latest data set. So let's go for it. As always, I have my disclaimers. All the data that I produce is my own. I use certified temperature probes and all sorts of cool gizmos and equipment to collect the information. I'm on a personal quest to find the best travel coolers that are out there, and I am not interested in any sponsorship from companies. This is just to help fellow patients just like me find the best products for their travel experiences and challenges. So as you know, in this video series I have been experimenting, testing out the idea of importing products directly from China, and frankly the reason is that I think there's quite a bit of price gouging going on with the US consumer and various resellers essentially marking up medicine cooler products by 200, 300, maybe even 400%, and basically selling those products to the US consumer, which I think is kind of disgraceful. But hey, I guess profit is profit for some. Anyway, let's keep on going. So as you know, I've been quite interested in the CHETAITAI, the reason being that it has a control panel that allows you to discreetly adjust the temperature, something which some of the other products like the For All Family Voyager cannot do. And so I was zoning in on this because I thought it was kind of quite cool to be able to do that. And then also, of course, the price point for this product is incredible. The selling price for these units with the USB cooler, no accessories though, just the base thermoflask with the cooler, is around $45–46, and actually the shipping fee and the import fee is essentially free. Which is just unbelievable, and so that's sort of why I zoned in on this one as being a potential winner. So let's keep on going. So as you know, I ordered an initial unit, and then after some testing I was left with positive impressions, so I went ahead and ordered a couple more. So then I became the owner of 4 of these. And then actually, interestingly enough, as you know, I started to think about this idea of perhaps putting some of these on eBay after I've completed thorough testing, and I know that they work well, so that you can essentially enjoy the prices that I paid for these, and then also the fact that you will know that they actually work and do what they claim they're going to do. So I've conveniently named these units 61, 62, 63 and 64, and these will be the numbers that will sort of follow the journey through the various testings that I've done. I actually put stickers on each of these units as well, so they've been sort of tagged with those numbers, so there's absolutely no possibility to get mixed up later on. Interestingly enough, after this initial round of testing, which I'm going to share, I actually went ahead and ordered another batch of these, and so I'm actually now the proud owner of about 8 of these units, and I'll share more about that story in a future video. So okay, so let's keep on going. So the experimental setup, you kind of saw this in the previous video, but I'll just show it here again. Basically, in each of these units, there will be 2 temperature probes attached to a single Zolair pen. The temperature probes will, one of them will be essentially in the lower section of the cooler, and the other one will be sort of in the mid to higher section of the cooler. And then there will also be 2 temperature probes just sitting on the outside next to these to kind of grab the ambient data. So I actually had these running for quite a few days, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in fact, and really just pulled a whole bunch of data on these. And so let me show you a set of data from this, and I'll be very interested to see what you think. So here's kind of graph dataset number 1. I've got 3 sort of dataset slides that I'm going to show you. So this first dataset, what you'll find interesting and maybe intriguing or curious about it is what I did was I tested the 4 units over a period of time, and and dialing in different temperature conditions on that temperature panel. And so in this test, I started with 0 centigrade and then went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Centigrade was the units of measurement that are on the display panel. So later on, you may have to do some conversion. Drawing your attention to the different plots that are here, you'll see that there's sort of 3 or 4 kind of bundles of plots. So the first one that I'll draw your attention to is kind of the blue plot, and there's 2 little lines that follow each other, noting the 2 temperature probes that are sitting in that unit. So the blue plot is unit 61, that's kind of hovering along there. The grey plot towards the bottom there is unit 64 that you can kind of see waddling along there. And then unit 62 and 63, actually the plot, they sort of sit over each other. And so you can sort of see units 62 and 63 kind of basically performing the same temperature-wise as you flow through this sort of data set. Noting the data set, you can see here, I started this sort of test run, at the end of September. And this basically went on for several days. So I pulled this data set over maybe about five or six days or something like that. I have a day job and other things like that, so it's not a precise sort of sequence of events when I was changing the temperature. But but it was roughly every day I was sort of dialing in a new temperature, or when I remembered. But I don't think that matters too much. So things that are interesting is, so now you can kind of start to see maybe what we would call manufacturing variability, or even manufacturing component variability, or even both, depending on how you view that. And so you can really start to see that there are interesting differences between each of the units. So each of the units certainly performed in the way that it was expected, where as you increase the temperature on the panel, you do actually see a corresponding increase in the temperature in the cooler system. It's about the same. It does seem to sort of shift by about a 1 or 2 degrees centigrade as you're kind of going up. But the one thing you might notice is, of course, the temperature display panel doesn't strictly reflect what the true or actual temperature is for each of these units. There's a range depending on which unit you're looking at. So in this data set, actually all of the units were plugged into the main power, so they were not on battery. And in this data set, you can kind of almost very clearly and obviously see that unit 64 was performing the best. It's the one that had the lowest temperature in the range, and then it was also the one that I would say may have the closest temperature to matching what was actually on the display panel. And then interestingly enough, unit 61, actually this was the one that I had originally ordered, is in this set of units the one that's, I would call, performing the worst. And so as you can see, as you go up in the temperature range, actually when you get to a displayed panel temperature of 4 degrees centigrade, you essentially reach the mark at 46 Fahrenheit. You pass 46 Fahrenheit in terms of the actual temperature in the container. And so basically one has to be very careful of this product, because when you first switch it on, the default temperature actually is 5 degrees centigrade, or if it accidentally gets powered off and then back on, it will reset itself to 5 degrees centigrade. And so as you can see, when this unit is at 5 degrees centigrade, and even the ambient temperature is kind of hovering around that 70 to 80 Fahrenheit, which isn't too dramatic, you can see that you're not going to be getting a unit that cools you down to the 46 Fahrenheit or less, which is typically the ideal storage conditions for a lot of the cold medications. You're kind of sort of in the 36 to 46 range. So this is very interesting. So I wanted to share that with you. I know there was a lot of you that were curious about sort of I guess unit to unit variability, manufacturing variability, component variability, and I think this really just sort of highlights exactly what that could mean. Now this obviously is only 4 units, so it's a sample of 4. So that, this is already kind of interesting to see that there's quite a bit of variability just even between 4 samples, where there's one that I would call a dud, and then another one that's actually performing extremely well, and then the other 2 are kind of like great. They'll get the job done. So something to think about. Let's keep on going, because there's more to this, and it gets a little bit more intriguing, and of course I'd be kind of curious to see what you think. So in this next data set, what I was doing here was I switched from experimenting with units that were powered in to units that were actually running on battery. So as you know, as I just mentioned, I think I'm going to call unit 61 kind of a dud at this point, and so I decided to focus my attention in on units 62, 63 and 64. I only actually have 3 in-use batteries anyway, and so just sort of a heads up on that. I could only do this test in parallel with 3. So interestingly enough, when you switch to the battery, so unit 64 kind of shines through as being the one that let's say burns the battery the fastest. So in the set of 3, unit 64 does noticeably burn the battery a little bit faster, and so you can sort of see that in the different data sets. But this gets a little bit less significant when you go up in temperature. But when you're really going after that colder temperature, it seems to be the one that kind of burns the battery fastest. But then also, interestingly enough, when you do switch to the battery, the performance changes a little bit. And so all of these units, when you try to cool them down to 0 degrees centigrade on the battery, they all kind of hover around that 32 Fahrenheit mark, which is sort of exactly, or almost exactly where you want to be. So if we go back to the other graph, which I'm going to do in a moment, so here we go. So we go back to the other graph. When we're at the 0 degree mark, if you look here, when we were on mains power and at 0 degree centigrade, only unit 64 was the one that was actually almost approximating that 32 Fahrenheit. The other units were sort of hovering more towards the sort of the 30s, I guess. So unit 62 and 63 were sort of hovering more there. So that's kind of intriguing. So there's a performance or temperature behavior difference between when it's plugged in versus when it's on battery, but maybe it's not dramatic. It's sort of interesting to see that. Now, why I actually want to show you this data set more specifically is, so a couple of things. So first of all, when you do have it running down at the 0 degrees centigrade, it's obviously burning a lot more battery. So what I calculated was the in-use batteries, you get about 8 to 9 hours of battery life with this product when you dial in 0 degrees centigrade. And then 8 hours, that was, so unit 64 kind of burnt the battery pretty quickly, and then just maybe a half an hour to an hour later, units 62 and 63 kind of ran out of battery. And then as you go up in temperature, of course, you're naturally consuming less energy. And with all of these products, when you get to the default setting 5 centigrade, you can sort of see that you're in the 11 to 12 hour range, which is actually very comparable to the 4 All-Family Voyager. So the 4 All-Family Voyager is running at around 42, 43 Fahrenheit. As most of you know, it's kind of on the line, sometimes 44, depending on which product you get lucky to get. And then, of course, it's sort of, those 20,000 milliwatt amp batteries seem to be in that sort of 12-hour range. So what I did notice was actually, and I'm going to go to my next graph to show you this, which was something I found a little bit more intriguing, was, as you know, all of these kind of USB coolers, they sort of oscillate in terms of the way they switch on and off to sort of manage and maintain the cooling temperature while not consuming too much sort of battery energy. So a little bit similar to a fridge. A fridge isn't continuously on, it's kind of oscillating on and off, every 10 or 20 or 30 minutes or whatever. And so the USB coolers also have an oscillation cycle where they sort of cool down, they cool down to like 3 degrees centigrade, they switch off, they warm up a little bit to 5, then they switch back on and cool back down and so on, and they sort of do that in this cyclic way. So what I noticed actually was that unit 64, strangely enough, had a much kind of wider oscillation wave than the other units, so unit 62 or 63. And so this is a zoom in of that data set where I'm testing out first the battery 1, and then of course testing out again. I sort of repeat the test for the batteries. Later on, actually, I redid this test and I switched out the batteries. I put the best performing battery in the worst performing unit and vice versa. And just a heads up, some extra data that I didn't show here. The battery was not influencing. This was entirely the data based on the energy consumption of the units. Okay, so anyway, but back to this. So this oscillation thing I sort of found quite interesting, because if you look here, unit 64, it's actually quite wide. So it oscillates from 38 to sort of 40 Fahrenheit. You can kind of see it do that. But look at unit 63. So unit 63 oscillates, maybe like 1 or 2 degrees centigrade. I think the only way one can explain this is either the units were programmed slightly differently. Basically the cooling warming cycle is a different program, quite literally, or there's something about the components that differs between some of these units. I don't know. All hypothesis, but the data here is real, and I thought this was kind of intriguing. So yeah, so that's where I got on that. So let's keep on going. Basically, the net of all of this is my opinion is that unit 63 is sort of the best balance of everything. What I am seeing is it's the one that's, I would call, the most energy efficient in terms of its ability to cool and its ability to maintain battery over a period of time. And so I am actually going to take unit 63 on a trip that I'm actually quite literally doing tomorrow morning. So I'm going to be heading to Chicago tomorrow morning, and I have decided to dress this one up for the show and take it with me with live medicine product, because I think it's a winner. And then, as you know, here's Unit 61. Unit 61 is a dud. This one's going to go to my testing pile. I might even take it apart and take a look inside. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but we'll see. So here's a little sneak peek of Unit 63, all dressed up and ready for the show. So it's been positioned in one of my favorite carrier bags. I've got it tagged with a medical ID bag label. It's positioned with an elegant USB cord that's kind of ergonomic and slick and right angled as well, so it feeds straight into the battery pocket. And so all I can say at this point is wish me luck with my trip. I will be back in about a week. Just a heads up, I actually have several trips going on at the moment, so I've got about 6 or 7 weeks of quite active traveling to deal with. So I'm going to be collecting a lot of cool data for you, as always, but please bear with me if I'm a little bit quieter or a little bit slower during this sort of travel interval. I will do my best to get some cool stuff for you, but I'm really looking to putting, let's call it the money where my mouth is, and actually going live with a CHETAITAI and an actual trip to basically prove that this is travel worthy. I will wrap up there and say, how about wish me luck. So thank you for listening to my channel today, and I wish you a wonderful day. Have a good one.